Hey everyone, Paratone asked me to make a tutorial on how to make a tank defense style weapon. And I'm going to show you two different ways to do it. The first way is to add the ability with a trigger. The second way to do it is the basic way to do it, and I'm going to talk about that first. The basic way to add like an artillery ability to an item is you just get an item and you can name it whatever. Go up to here to abilities and click add ability. I already have the artillery abilities in my unit abilities, so you just go like that. Let's delete the original ability, and voila, now you have an artillery weapon. So the ability itself is based on Phoenix Fire, and you just name it whatever you want. Change the targets you want to whatever if you wanted to target ground but not air, you just go like that. Now it hits ground enemy. Cooldown is how many times it fires per second. This one is 1 second cooldown, so it fires once a second. Area of effect is 1,000. The initial damage it does is 6. If you put damage per second, let's say you'll do 10 damage per second, and then the duration is like 0.1 seconds, you're going to do 1 damage per second with the duration damage, but we don't want that because this is a one-shot weapon. It's not like an ability weapon where, like, let's see if I can find one. Adamantite shot's an ability weapon that adds a slow effect. So you could put buffs on here. You could do fairy fire weapon, or you could do a disease cloud weapon, and I haven't done most of these, but you could do it. Area of effect is, yeah, talked about that. So for like the artillery item that I have in my tank defense game, it is a 4-shot weapon, so I have 4 of these artillery abilities. They're identical, and if you want to, you could just make one of these and just attach it to one item, and you have that's it. Now each time you have that separate item, you're gonna get 6, up to 6 of that ability. But in my game, I decided to use charged weapons just so that you're not going back and forth to the shop all the time to swap out your weapons, so they just stack on top of each other. So I use charged items right here, like this. Right here is artillery. See, it doesn't have the artillery ability on it. It has the buy artillery ability. So it has active ability. When you click it, you just get more of them if you have enough gold. So the first way I was talking about is to use a trigger to add the ability to the hero when you acquire the item. So you acquire the item from the shop or purchase the ability, and you get the item, and then it adds those skills to your hero, and then it modifies the real level field of the ability on your hero to 6 times multiply by the number of charges on the item. So charges are integers, but the damage is real, so you have to change the number of charges value to a real value and then multiply it because you're changing a real level field. If there's an integer level field, you would need to change it to real. You could change real to integer also if you're using a real value and you want to change an integer field. And then you set the ability. So we just added the ability, right here, and now we're changing it. So it changes every time you acquire an item. It says unit hero manipulating item ability with ability code artillery 1A. So you want to make the ability first, and then you want to make the trigger to add the ability to the hero, and then you want to modify the ability with the trigger. And then, like, I have a tooltip set here, and the value for the tooltip is 24 because that's the amount of damage it does. Remember, we saw it did 6, and it does 1 per second. There's 4 of them, so it does 24 damage per second. And then this gets complicated. Again, you're going to set the tooltip. If you want, I recommend doing this unless you have a weapon that just never changes. It always does the same damage, which is perfectly fine. I mean, that's how this map started. Is this all the weapons did this whatever damage, and you had to like sell your weak weapon and buy your stronger weapon. But now you can just stack weak weapons on top of each other. But anyway, if you want to set the tooltip dynamically with charges, all you just have to set the extended tooltip of the item being manipulated, and then put the damage value that you have, like 24, into the tooltip, and then, 24, that will say what your DPS is. That's pretty much it. If you have any questions, come to the Discord. I'd be happy to explain it to you. I'll put the link for that in the description. Um, and just to talk about the ability again, this is the Phoenix Fire ability. You can use any missile art you want. I have Barrage for artillery. That's what it looks like over here. If you want, you could, put like Black Arrow. If you want a Black Arrow weapon, you just do that. Missile homing, no. Missile homing is where it follows the target. The missile speed is how fast the missile goes. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. For flamethrowers, for example, I have the Archmage missile art. It used to be Breath of Fire, but you could set whatever you want for the missile art. If you're using this trigger to add the ability to the hero, and you're modifying the data field, um, you may want to remove the ability when they drop the item, and that's how you do that. It says unit loses an item. If the item they're losing is equal to whatever, you remove the abilities that you granted in this trigger in here, like that. And then I have an ability list like this. So artillery is ability 1, 2, 3, 4, and then remove it. And then the way I thought of this is just remove the ability list and then set the item level to the same number on the ability list of the item being manipulated. So the ability list, for example, of the artillery is the item level. And this one says 1. So that would work just fine with a item with one ability, but you can only set one level for the item, so you can only use that for items with one ability. So if you have an item like artillery with multiple abilities on it, you have to remove each ability individually, like this. Here's artillery right here. So when they lose the item, they remove these abilities. And if you want, you don't even have to use permanent items. So if you wanted to just, if you have a battleship and you want permanently to add the artillery ability to the battleship, you can absolutely do that. Just use a power up, like a Tome of Agility, and take off the. Here, I'll just show you. Tome of Agility. See the ability right here is item agility gain. You don't. You just delete this. Leave it blank. Just leave that blank, and then go back into here. Instead of artillery, requires an item. You just change the item they're requiring to Tome of Agility. So whenever they Tome of Agility, they are doing the same thing with the hero ability. Now, the thing to remember is they have to have the ability on their hero before they can use the Tome of Ability on it. So you want whatever item you're acquiring, to give you this ability, and you can use items. Um, you can use different abilities to grant this ability. Um, you can just buy the ability with gold in like a spell book, and it's you could use that for basically any ability in the game. You can do that, but the way that it's set up in my tank defense maps is you pick up the weapon, it figures out the number of charges, and then it modifies the data field like that. So, and I'm just going to talk about the easy way to do it again, is to just find an item and then add the ability to it. That way, whenever they pick it up or drop it, it's they're not they're only using the item ability when they have it equipped or in their inventory. Okay, so any questions? Join the Discord and send me a message or leave a comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.